that I noticed was that he mentioned most people do not really want freedom because freedom involves responsibility. And most people are frightened of responsibility. And this made me think, why is it that people struggle to change? Entrepreneurs, people in general, like, why is it that we remain stuck and we don't move forward in a way that really works? So one thing that I want to say is, if you're excited for this conversation today, I want you to put a fire emoji in the chat. Let's make sure people are interactive here. I don't just want to be chatting to you. So do put a fire emoji in the chat if you are ready and excited to rock and roll. So let's go into the first point. The first point is being able to have the pain to change, right? If you don't have enough pain to change, you're not going to change in your life moving forward. Like, you're just not going to move. Thank you, Andrew, Aaron, Lorraine, Theo. We've got some people who are engaging here, which is super exciting. And I've got Healthy Coffee Cafe as well on Instagram. Wicked. So I want to share a quick story because I think this really hits the nail on the head with regards to having pain enough to change. So this is many years ago when I first started going out with Evelyn, now my other half. One of the challenges that I faced is that I went over to America. Now, I am a British person, and as a British person, we have to finish everything that is on our plate. Like, that is the important thing to do, right? And unfortunately, in America, the plates are twice as big. So you can see already it's a little bit of a challenge, right? So the plates are twice as big. I'm finding it a little bit uncomfortable, but I'm aiming to finish everything. It's more of a challenge. I'm British. I like taking on a challenge. So unfortunately for me, her family is Asian. Now, the challenge there is that they express love through food. So when I finished everything, they thought I was still hungry, so they would give me more, right? So now I'm like, oh my God, now I've got a serious challenge here, right? So what happens is I end up going back and forth, literally for weeks, trying to eat as much as I could and then just overfeeding me. Now, what happened is I gained 30 pounds literally in a month. It was crazy, in 30 days. And as I started to go through that, I realized I gained some weight. This is a huge challenge. And there was obviously that miscommunication there that occurred. Now, the problem was that after that happened to me, I stayed that way for a long time. Like, I could have changed, I could have done something different, but I chose not to. And especially when we look into our business and our lives, what happens is we end up being comfortable. Now, when we're comfortable and we're in the same place, what happens is it's very difficult to move forward in a different way. And what happens is we end up staying in the same place. Now, the comfort zone is one of the worst places to be, because if you're stuck in the comfort zone and you're not moving out of that and you don't have anyone to stretch you, then what happens is you end up doing the same thing over and over again. By the way, if that resonates and you feel like you're sometimes stuck in your comfort zone, see if you can put a plate in the chat here. Let's see if we can get a plate going to see if anyone resonates with that and you feel like you're kind of stuck there on that plate and you can't really move out of it. Because for me, what has to happen was there was enough pain. Literally, I think it was 8 months later, I was sitting there, I was working from home, I was sitting at my desk, and suddenly I was in so much pain. My neck hurt, my hips hurt, my back hurt, that I said, enough is enough. I'm going to actually make the change here and start to move forward. So if you're someone that feels like you don't have enough pain right now in order to change, then the key is going to be able to find a bigger why. Now, why is this important? You need a big enough why to change and finding out the reasons why you want to create a change in the first place. So whatever it is that you're struggling to change, my guess is you don't have enough leverage in order to move forward. So what we want to do is to look into how do you find that leverage so that you can continually make the changes needed in order to move forward in your life. I'm loving all these different plate emojis. That's absolutely hilarious. Okay, so that's point one, right? We haven't got enough pain in order to create the change needed in our lives. So that point two, and this is a really important one, is where we give up too early. Now, what do I mean by this? I see this time and time again. Now, if we look into Thomas Edison, I think this is a very obvious story, right? He tried 10,000 times to create the light bulb and failed. And when you ask him, he didn't say, oh, I failed 10,000 times. He said, I found 10,000 ways that didn't work. Right? Now, what I tend to find, especially with a lot of people, is we go through this thing called dabbling. Now, what do I mean by dabbling? Dabbling is where we end up doing a lot of different things. We're attempting to build our business or lose weight or whatever that is. Let's use a business example, okay? You're trying to better market online. So you try LinkedIn. You do it for 30 days. Oh, that didn't work. Let's try Instagram. You try Instagram. That doesn't work, and you go on to something else. And what happens is you have this shiny penny syndrome whereby you're constantly looking for different things. Now, I did a post recently on active procrastination. And this is literally what's happening. And this is why I find it's such a challenge for people, especially for myself, because it's a sneaky form of procrastination. It's definitely the sneakiest, I find, because you feel like you're being productive. Like you're actually giving it a go. Like you're doing all these things. You're wanting to be productive. But what happens is you end up just not doing what you need to do to move things forward. And it can be such a pain. Now, if that's ever happened to you where you feel like you've actively procrastinated, you've dabbled and you felt unsure, I want you to put a light bulb in the chat if that's you, right? Because I know for myself, when I struggled with procrastination, and what ended up happening was I was attempting to do lots of things, but I wasn't sticking to anything. When I first had my business in China, I was looking into loads of different strategies to market. I was speaking to event organizers. I was connecting with different people doing podcasts. I was looking into, Douyin, which is kind of TikTok out in China, like WeChat. Like there's so many different things, and I was getting myself overwhelmed. Now, if you give up after a few failures, if you get yourself distracted, what will happen is you're not going to create the change you need. This is where consistency is key. Okay, we need to be persistent and consistent. And Fimo, Theo, Mary, love the emojis there. Thank you for taking part in this. So the challenge here is we want to be able to stay consistent with what we're doing for a long enough period of time in order to be successful. And there's something that I hear time and time again, going back to Thomas, I think it was Einstein, who says insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting different results. Now, the truth is that's not true in all circumstances. Now, what do I mean by this? Let's say you go to the gym, okay? You do a press up. You come back, you're like, oh, nothing. You do a press up again, nothing. If you keep doing it again and again and again, let's say you do 2 press ups, 3 press ups, and you start building it up through time, what happens is compound occurs where suddenly there's going to be a change. What's interesting is there was a book I was reading recently on, let me make sure I get this right. It's lost me. I'll figure it out. But basically, the analogy was this. Some people say that in order to be rich, you could just be £1 away. Now, what does this mean? If we were to give someone £1 or $1 or 1 Bitcoin for that matter, 1 crypto, if it snowballed through time and you kept on giving them 1 and 1 and 1 and 1 and 1 and 1, at some point they would be quote unquote rich. So there will be a moment there, which is the tipping point, which is that 1 extra coin that ends up being what needs to happen in order to make that complete transformation, maybe from poor to rich, or from you from stressed out to happy, or from not happy with your body to happy with your body. I'm not sure what that is for you, but it's actually just that one change. So the compound effect is so important. And this is why I don't think we spend enough time now being consistent with what we need to do in order to make it happen. So especially if you're someone who's struggling to be consistent with what you're doing, one of the best ways to do this is to measure your progress consistently. I can't tell you how important this is. I know for myself, I struggled, for example, with Chinese. I couldn't see the progress I was making, so it was very, very challenging to move forward. So if you can actually turn what you're struggling with, and we can actually look at it in a way where you can see the consistency that you're doing through time, you're going to find it easier to be consistent through time and actually move forward. So let's just clarify. Step 1, right? If you don't have enough pain to change, we need to switch that and we need to find a bigger why. Next, if you're giving up after a few failures, if you're finding you're dabbling, you're actively procrastinating, the solution is to stay persistent and acknowledge the progress you're making, because then you're going to be able to move forward in a more sustainable way. Now, number 3 is a huge one. And I see a lot of entrepreneurs and people nowadays really, really struggling with this. And this is a lacking clarity of a compelling future. Let me say that again. Lacking clarity of a compelling future. And this is where you don't know where to go. Now, I want to give an example of this because I think this is quite extreme, but I think it will really resonate with what's going on. So I was out in China many years ago, and I was attending one of my friend's events. He's called the Student Monk, Raf Adams, one of my best mates, amazing. And as I'm there, I'm speaking to one of the attendees, and she's got a bubbly personality. She's got huge earrings, like she's a very fashionable lady, right? And as we start chatting, she basically ends up saying, I'm actually here because I'm feeling depressed. I'm actually suicidal. And I said, oh my God, that's awful. She says, yeah, I could never see myself living past 35. So, oh my God, well, how old are you now? I said, I'm 34 and a half. I was like, oh shit, we got something to do then, right? And the challenge that she was facing is she could never see past that. She was running her own business. She was running a fashion business, and she would fly to New York. She would go to China. She would go to Germany, and she would basically do a little triangle. Now, the challenge that she had is she would start to go through all these different places, And she would get herself in this pattern when she was getting overwhelmed and she couldn't see a way out. It would happen again and again, and she would go through these cycles of kind of burnout and then moving forward and burnout and moving forward. If that's ever happened to you and you've kind of gone through burnout and those cycles, put an emoji in the chat that represents that for you. Like, what would you say a bunch of emojis would be that represents kind of a burnout cycle to then you moving forward? Because that's a cycle that a lot of people struggle with. So what we want to do is to create a compelling future for you to move towards. Now, the challenge is this. Most people have an understanding of kind of where they want to go, but then they don't take action. Why? Let me use an analogy, and I really hope this resonates with you. I want you to imagine that you are on a boat, okay? It could be a big boat, a small boat, a large boat, I'm not sure, any kind of boat that you like. And you're on this boat and you are circling an island, okay? So you're going round and round this island. And as you're going round and round the island, you're looking for that golden, compelling future, that diamond opportunity. And you're there and you're going round and round and round and you're searching for this diamond. Now, as you're going round and round, what happens is you keep going round. And it happens for months go by, years go by, and you're just going round and round until one day some crazy guy jumps off the boat, starts swimming to the island and searches for rubies, emeralds, and all the other things that they would have never found just sitting on the boat. Now, what does this actually mean to you? What this means is when we are lacking a compelling future and we're feeling unsure, sometimes just taking that one step of action towards what we need to do is the best thing that you can do to move you forward. A lot of people get stuck in overthinking. They're trying to figure out what they need to do, and suddenly it becomes overwhelming and things move so quickly that they just don't know what to do. I'll give you an example. When I'm trying to do this StreamYard and trying to organize everything, even I get overwhelmed sometimes. But you need to just focus on the next step. And that's one of the most important questions that you can ask yourself, especially when you're struggling with overwhelm and you're lacking clarity and you don't know what you're doing. What is your next step? I think about that for yourself. Like, what is the next step for you in order to move forward in a way that really works? I'm really glad that that resonates with you, Meminatu and Rebecca. I love that burnout emojis there. Absolutely fantastic. So when it comes to moving forward from this, right, we want to think about what would make this amazing for you, right? What would an extraordinary life, a compelling future look like? And then what we want to do is to take one step in order to make that happen, especially for those right now who are in an area where you're reflecting, right? We've just gone past Q1. I literally had a conversation with a client yesterday where we set out what a compelling future would look like. I did the same exercise with a guy literally an hour ago. I'm going to take you through it. It's very simple, but I found that these 3 steps have been game changing to give people clarity on what to focus on. So step 1 is to come up with the ultimate vision. Like, what's your ultimate vision? Where do you want to be? Now, the surprising thing is most people actually kind of know this, right? They know where they're going. You can get your ultimate vision of where you want to be. That's kind of the first step. Now, after that, you've got that ultimate vision. Step 2 is to figure out, okay, well, by the end of 2022, well, what is it that you would love to be able to achieve? Is it that you want to, double your business? You want to lose weight? You want to have a better relationship? Like, what would be a great aim for you to achieve by the end of this year? And just gain clarity on what that looks like, because I think a lot of people are struggling. Gabrielle, glad you're enjoying the video. So when it comes to this, right? So we've got our vision, and now we're taking a step back and we're looking into a calendar year goal. For everyone right now, it's 9 months, which is cool. 9 months is a great period of time to work towards. Now, then the next step is saying, right, what is my 3-month game plan? Q2, from April 5th to July 31st. What is it that I want to achieve? This is the most important element to give you clarity on what to prioritize, what to focus on, and how to move forward. I call this a power year. Okay, a power year. Now, why a power year is so important? Because a power year is an opportunity for you to compress time. Okay, we're compressing time. So as opposed to thinking in a 12-month period of time, we're going to compress and we're going to think in a 3-month period of time. Our aim is to have a 12-week year. And what we're doing is we're compressing time as much as we can so that we can achieve more to then allow us to gain more of a focus moving forward. The analogy that I gave recently was be a sniper, not a shotgun, right? Because a sniper allows you to go much further than a shotgun where you're kind of spraying everywhere. So what we want to be able to do is to focus on kind of being that sniper, getting laser focused on what matters most to enable us to move forward. So we've covered the first three so far, right? The biggest challenges are don't have enough pain to change, give up after a few failures, lacking clarity of a compelling future. The next one is a huge one. I think it's so important. And I see people, especially with the challenges that we faced over the past few years, really, really struggling with how to move forward with this. And that is that they get stuck living in the past or in the future. Okay, they get stuck living in the past or in the future. Out of interest for everyone live right now, could you comment on whether you're living in the past, present, or future? Just put past, present, or future. I'm just curious to see what was going on there. And just to clarify for the sniper analogy, Angus, let me clarify that now. The sniper analogy is this. Most people in life are being a shotgun. What I mean by this is the following. A shotgun is whereby you are spraying and praying, right? You're doing loads of different things. You're dabbling in lots of projects. You're attempting to move everything forward at the same time, but it's not working for you well because you're not getting laser focused. A sniper, on the other hand, is where you've got a singular focus, you know where you're going, and you've got complete clarity on where you're heading moving forward in a way that works for you. Most people need to be a sniper in their life because we're in an information overload and we're starving of wisdom. So let's, Angus, glad you love that. Okay, so Victoria, we've got future. Let me see here. We've got future. We've got a few past, future, past, future. Okay, I think, oh, I tell you what, I think we are pretty 50-50 future and past here. So I've got a few people in the present. So let's cover both of them and we'll gain some clarity on either or. So let me go through some examples here because I think this is important. Let's go extreme. So when I was in Los Angeles, and this was, let me think about 5 years ago, I was at one of the Tony Robbins events. Now, I'm not sure if anyone's had an opportunity to go, but it was great fun and I was volunteering. Now, the aim there was for me to be able to just support, have fun, and meet some great people. Now, as I'm there, I end up meeting this guy. He's in his 50s, and we get on like a house on fire. Like we're generally having such a laugh. His name's Edwin, and we're just getting on really well. Now, what's happening as we start to get on with the event. We're on day 3, and there are 3 tiers to this theater. We're currently in tier 2. And you know, sometimes when you enter a concert hall, like you go through and you've got these huge walls on either side, and we're there and we're just having a conversation. Everyone's jumping around. It's pretty crazy. And as we're starting to have a conversation, he basically tells me more about what's going on. And he says, Ben, you know, I'm at the edge. And I was like, what do you mean you're at the edge? He says, I had $1 billion business and I lost everything. And I had no idea what to do. I've gone to jail. My best friend stole my private jet. My wife had an affair. I don't know what to do right now. What was very interesting is as we started to work together over the course of the few months, something kept repeating, and it was a story. The story which goes on and on and on and on. And for those listening, I want you to reflect on what is the story that you're currently saying to yourself in your life. Because if you're looking into the past, most likely you're looking into things that you can't control, and very often you may be experiencing depression. You may get depressed because you're focusing on something that you cannot change or influence, and it can allow you to then feel overwhelmed, you're feeling unsure, and you don't know what to do moving forward, right? So for him, one of the stories that he would say is he would be driving along and he would see a skyscraper, and he would say, I used to own that. How could I have made such a big mistake? I can't believe that I've done these mistakes. I'm going downhill. And then he would move into a downward spiral. Okay. And maybe if you can resonate with this, you've gone into downward spirals in your life where suddenly you're in the past, you're getting overwhelmed and you just don't know what to do. The key there is to move away from the past and let go to enable you to focus in the present. The truth is, you will never be the person that you need to be in the future by looking at your past. Okay. Most people will look at their past to define who they are. But if you're always looking at the past to define who you are, you're never going to be the person who you need to be in the future. I really want you guys to take that in because it's such an important point, and it's been one of the most game-changing things for me, because when we can actually take a step back and realize that our past doesn't define who we are now, the past is just the past, and we get to redefine what that is, we can actually move forward in a much, much more sustainable way. So when we look into overcoming that story, stories are incredibly important because what will often happen is stories will repeat again and again and again. So in order to overcome the past, what we want to do is to have that switch. We want to move out of that, let go of whatever it is that we're holding on to enable us to focus on the present. So that's from the past side of things. Now, if anyone got a question on that, you can let me know. And Rudolph, sorry you can't hear anything. I definitely say to check your audio. If you can hear me, can you just put an ear in the chat? I just want to make sure I'm still live and you guys can hear me okay. I'm waiting for some ears and then I can carry on. Okay, there we go. We got some ears. Brilliant. All right. So let's carry on with this. By the way, if you are enjoying the conversation, please do share. Please do ping some people in. My aim is to inspire as many people as we can to get unstuck moving into Q2, Q3, Q4 as we move forward here. So let's carry on from this from the future standpoint. So when we're looking into the future, and Victoria, this is for you because I know you're coming in on LinkedIn now. This is where we're focusing on the future. We've got anxiety. There is something in the future that we're feeling unsure about, and we're getting ourselves nervous and overwhelmed. The example that I gave previously of Anna, where she was running her fashion business, the challenge that she had is she would look towards these fashion shows. She would have so much anxiety. She would get stressed out, completely overwhelmed, and have no idea what's going on. And then suddenly it happened, and then she would look to the next trade show. And what happens is we're looking for a goal and we hit it. We get so overwhelmed when we're there, and then we set the next one. And what happens is we're constantly looking into the future. I actually read something very, very interesting today, and I'm very curious to see if people agree or not. I heard this, that you should create a vision board and then put it away. Because if you keep it out, then maybe you are focusing in on the future because you're just focusing on the future if you always see your vision board. So I'm curious, okay, from people listening here. Are you someone that puts it away or do you keep it out? So either put keep out or put away. I'm just curious what people think is the right thing to do here. Let's see if people are feeling confused. Okay, we've got put away. Anything else? We've just got one put away here. Okay, we've got some put aways. Interesting. Okay, we got, okay. So from people so far, there's is putting away the same as hiding it. So this is where it comes to manifesting and intentions. The aim here is to figure out how it works best for you. And this is why I think it's so important to listen to different people's perspectives when you're trying to get unstuck and move forward in your life. Because the truth is, when it comes to kind of manifesting or creating that or looking forward to your vision and not living in the future, it's how you interpret it. Are you looking at this saying, I'm not good enough now, I want to move forward? Is it aligning you on this is where I'm focusing, or is it something different? There is no right or wrong. The key is to figure out what you are experiencing and how you're living. If you find you're living in the future and you've got your vision board out, maybe it's good to remove it. If you find you're dabbling, you're not focused, maybe re-bring it out to reintegrate kind of what you're doing so you can get laser focused and be that sniper I mentioned earlier on what matters to really allow you to move forward in a sustainable way. So we've covered the first four here. We're flying, really. Okay, so we mentioned a few things. We mentioned don't have enough pain to change, and the solution was to have a bigger why and find out the reasons why you want to create a change and make it happen. Number two is giving up after a few failures. And this is where often we are actively procrastinating and struggling to be able to focus. That's the sniper versus shotgun. We want to stay persistent and acknowledge the progress you're making. That's really key. Number three was lacking clarity of a compelling future. And the solution is to think about what would make life extraordinary and then take one step to make it happen and clarify, once again, that power year, that 22 calendar year, and then your ultimate vision to enable you to move forward more sustainably. Now, the last one that we've covered so far is about getting stuck living in the past or the future. And the aim is to learn to live in the present to allow you to really embrace what's going on and not get stuck in cycles of anxiety or cycles of depression moving forward. So next, we're going to go into some patterns. So just out of interest so far, I want you to put some emojis in the chat with regards to how you're feeling at present. Let's just get some clarity here. How are we feeling? Give me some emojis here. Are we feeling fire? Are we feeling confused? Are we feeling happy? What's going on so far? I've got a thumbs up. All right, I'll take a thumbs up. A thumbs up's good. Thank you, Chi. Anything else? I've got some smiley faces. I've got, oh, wow, I've got a lot of claps there. That's exciting. What else have we got here? A surfboard. Someone's feeling unsure. Okay. Someone's feeling hungry and fasting. Okay, cool. We've got a lot of different emojis there, which is exciting. Okay, let's carry on because I think we've got some cool ones here to help you move forward. So the next one, and this is actually probably the most important one I'm going to say today. Okay, so this is one to definitely pay attention with. Before I go into it, I want to say this. If you're still feeling stuck and you're still feeling unsure after this, and you're feeling unsure and you don't know what to do, and Ashley, thank you for that emoji there on Instagram. What I'd say is just message me saying stuck. Explain a little bit where you're stuck and I'll point you in the right direction, because I know a lot of people, I've got lots of resources and I can kind of help you move forward, but please don't do that until you listen to all these other points, because I want to make sure that if I can, to give you the insights that you need right now, just to get unstuck and understand the next step to take on your journey. Okay, so let me give you an example here. So there was a guy from India who I worked with who was running a business, 1,000+ employees. And the challenge that he had is he was addicted to drugs and sex. And he would find himself being distracted and suddenly going on like a bender. And suddenly he is there for weeks at a time, not doing what he needs to do in order to move the business forward. And it was incredibly overwhelming for him. So one of the things that we need to look at and overcome is getting stuck in old patterns. Okay. If you find that there's a pattern in your life that you want to change right now, I want you to put an emoji of a thumbs up here. Thumbs up if there's a pattern in your life that you want to change right now that you feel you're currently stuck in. So let's see if anyone, okay, cool. So when we're stuck in an old pattern, what is going on? Okay, I appreciate Vipul, Fimo, Joshua, Chi, loving this. Angus, loving. It's a great interactive room. You guys are doing amazing. Let's keep these thumbs up going here. 4 thumbs up, that means you've got 4 patterns, eh? Okay, behave. Come on, we're live here. Let's be honest. All right. So when it comes to overcoming patterns, right? For a lot of people in their lives, they struggle with a pattern that repeats. And you hear it time and time again. I don't know why, but I just attract that type of person. I'm not sure why, but I keep having the wrong types of people in my team. When we are getting stuck in old patterns, the key is to be able to interrupt the pattern and to figure out the root cause. I want to give you an example of this, because when I first heard this, I think it resonated with me more than anything else when I first started in self-development. And it's this: when you are looking to change a tree, okay, let's say I'm a pear tree and you're an apple tree, okay? What happens if you stick a pear on an apple tree? Okay, out of interest, I'm just curious. Let's see what people write here. If you put a pear and you stick it on an apple tree, what happens? I'm just curious. Let's see if people are live. Let's see what they're saying. So stick a pear, you put it on an apple tree. What's going to happen? Will it stay? Will it die? Will it fall off? Will it rot? What do you think will happen? Okay. Not much. I love that. Fall off. Okay, cool. Yeah, not much fall off. Like, this is pretty much what happens, right? It rots. And this is what we do in life. We look for a strategy. Okay. I want to be able to, a common example is lose weight. So I look for a strategy. Okay. The strategy, this is what I need to find, and this will solve it. It's fasting, it's keto, it's whatever that is, right? Suddenly we're going for a strategy. That's like putting an apple on a pear tree. Okay. Or a pear tree on an apple tree. I can't remember what way around it was, but you know what I'm talking about. Now, what happens? What happens is you stick it on there and then it falls off, and then you think, oh, that strategy didn't work. I need something different. And time again, people are looking for a shortcut. They're looking for a strategy. They're looking for a marketing golden nugget in business. They're looking for a shortcut, some way that suddenly when they have that will solve all their problems. But the challenge is this: when you can change the roots of the tree, then the fruit will change. Okay. Now, what does that mean? We need to go back and understand why the pattern is occurring. Too many people try and place this strategy on top of something that's recurring at something deeper. And this is where you actually need to think back, like, why is this occurring? Like, why does this keep happening? And if you're feeling unsure, I strongly recommend reflecting and journaling is one of the best things that you can do on this, because what it does, it can allow you to kind of better understand what's going on so that you can move things forward in a way where you can kind of reflect, you can see what's happening, and you can really make things happen sustainably. So if you are feeling, once again, a little bit unsure about that, what you want to do is to reflect and find the root cause of what's going on so that you can move forward in a better way. Okay. I want to give an example of this because hopefully it will make it a little bit more concrete. So the example that I gave previously of Mahir. So once again, Indian business owner, and he was struggling with these addictions. When we got to the root cause of it, what we found is that for him, he wouldn't feel enough. because he had a family company, his dad was there, and he was struggling so much to be able to prove himself. So in order to make himself feel better and feel enough, he would turn to other more stimulating things to enable him to move forward, right? Now, why is this key? Because for a lot of people who quit one thing, they end up becoming addicted to something else. Why? Because the core thing isn't changing. And this is what's very important. We want to look into like, what is the core thing going on so that we can shift things in a way that will really, really work. So in order to get stuck and out of the old patterns, the key there is to understand the root cause and then to remove that so that you can move forward more sustainably. I can see I've got Ram live as well. Ram, welcome to the room. Great to see you on Insta. Okay. So our next one is going to be a little bit of fun. This is where we get stuck in overthinking. So let's have a bit of fun here. I want you to put 3 emojis in the chat that represents overthinking to you. Okay, when you're overthinking, I want you to put 3 emojis in the chat right now that represents overthinking to you. What would those 3 emojis be? Let's see who's going to be first there. See, if you're thinking and you're getting overthinking about these emojis, I think you've got to get out of that, okay? What is overthinking? So we've got sad face, roller coaster, like that. I've got kind of a winky face with a tongue out, unhappy, head explosion. That's nice, that's nice. Matt, there was only 1 there, we need 3. We got monkey poo clown. Okay, fair. All right, so I'm liking some of these emojis for overthinking. Appreciate you guys having a bit of fun with me right now. When it comes to overthinking, all right, let's take a step back. The aim here to overcome is where we believe we are our mind. And I had such an interesting conversation with an entrepreneur. I think this was 2 months ago. And I shared an analogy, and I'm sharing it constantly. And I really, really hope it resonates with you guys. So what he was finding is this. He was overwhelmed, getting himself stressed out, and he would find himself overthinking. And very often the reason why I see a lot of, especially entrepreneurs, get stuck in overthinking is because they're looking for a perfect way to do something. They're looking to have some sort of perfectionism there. So what happens is they get into analysis paralysis, and then they move into overthinking. Or they're unsure of what's going to happen. There's fear of failure, and there's lots of things that lead to basically that overthinking standpoint. So when we're in a place where we are overthinking, and we are getting ourselves stuck, like how do you move out of that? Well, a lot of the time what's happening is we believe we are our mind, and we have a thought, and then suddenly we're like, well, why am I thinking that? Oh my God, I'm so stressed. And suddenly we go on this train downhill of this thought, and we get stuck in this pattern. And something that was really, really powerful that I mentioned to this guy, Charlie, he said, well, Ben, I don't get it. I'm doing this work. Why do I still have negative thoughts? Okay. Is there no way just to remove them all because it's driving me insane? And this is the analogy I shared with him. I said, Charlie, everyone has a shadow. Okay. What would you tell someone who had a shadow and started chasing it around trying to get rid of their shadow, right? It's just a shadow. You know what I mean? Like, it's just there. That's okay. But too often we get ourselves overwhelmed and stressed out, and we jump on this, and suddenly we get ourselves overwhelmed. Like, oh, what happens if this fails? Well, if this fails, then I'm going to go downhill. And if I go downhill, then maybe I'll lose the business, I'll lose my partner. And then suddenly we get ourselves overwhelmed and we get ourselves overthinking. So in order to overcome that, we need to take a step back and think, you know what? A thought is just a thought. It's okay. It's okay to just have a thought. Now, why is that so important? Because too often in our lives, we think, oh my God, woe is me. This is the worst thing that could have possibly happened to me. And we get ourselves completely overwhelmed and we don't know what we're doing, right? Instead, we need to be able to distinguish between the mind and your higher self, okay? The mind. Now, the mind is where you have a thought. And a thought is okay. It's just a thought. The challenge is where you jump on the thought and then you go on that spiral, and that will keep you stuck because suddenly you're getting yourself overwhelmed and you're feeling unsure, and then you lead in that downward spiral. Okay. What we want to do is to interrupt that and learn to distinguish between like the mind and the higher self so that you can do things in a way that works for you long term. Okay. So in order to be able to distinguish between what that is, you will hear about meditation. Meditation is watching the mind. What I challenge people to do as well, and I was reading about this, and I like the way she phrased it, was about kind of a positive affirmation track. I call this a daily power, but where suddenly you are training your mind each day to focus on what matters so that you can move forward in a more sustainable way. That's probably one of the most game-changing things that I do. And I do it for some of my clients as well. It's basically I record an audio of what they want to be able to achieve in 3 months, what they're focusing on, their affirmations, what they're grateful for. And suddenly what you're doing is you're redirecting the mind and you're focusing on what you want as opposed to what you don't want. The truth is our instinct is to survive. So we have the survival brain. What we want to do is to move against that so that we're not fighting it, but instead we're moving things forward in a way that actually works for us long term. So instead of believing in your mind, you need to differentiate between the mind and your higher self to allow you to move forward in a way that works. Okay. So we've gone through 6. We got 2 more. You guys are doing well. Victoria, sorry, I've just seen that. We've got some cross-eyed faces, stars. We've got a little water droplet coming out of a nose and a queasy face for overthinking. Absolutely love that. That's brilliant. So I just want to acknowledge everyone is being absolutely game-changing with all the emojis and everything that you're doing. I'm loving the creativity on this call. So I'm going to give you guys all a virtual thumbs up. I'm not going to type because otherwise I'm going to get myself overwhelmed attempting to type on all the platforms. So let's rock and roll with point number 7. Now, point number 7 is, once again, one that people don't really think about, but is actually one of the easiest ways to help you get unstuck and create sustainable change. Okay. And this is where their environment is preventing change. Now, let me clarify what I mean by preventing. I'm not saying you can blame your environment. What I'm saying is it's not supporting you in a way that's going to help you long term. What we want to do is to find a way to have your environment support you in a way that works. Now, let me go back and I'll give you an example from myself that I really, really struggled with. So I was out in Silicon Valley, and one of the challenges that I had was burnout and hustling. And I put a post today on lots of different platforms kind of explaining that story and the kind of the addiction that I had. So you can click on my profile and go check that out. It's the when I have this, then I will addiction. And it was probably one of the most, like the biggest game-changing things that I learned from burnout. So, feel free to click on any of my profiles and you can kind of check that out from the post. But specifically with what I was noticing in Silicon Valley is there's this environment of wanting to achieve things again and again and again, and hustling and hustling and hustling. And the challenge was I got that into my mind. So it was literally at a stage where I would focus in on hustling and hustling and hustling and doing everything that I could to move the business forward. To such an extent, I would see people on the weekend relaxing and I would think these people are lazy. I mean, how crazy is that? And the reason why is because I was just stuck in this place where I thought that's what the norm was. So if you right now are kind of struggling with a certain change, something to reflect on is this. If you're the average of the 5 people you spend most time around, right? Think of those 5 people in your environment. Do they have the changes that you want, or do you think they could be holding you back? Now, I'm not saying you have to force these changes out, but it will influence you in an unconscious way if you're not aware of it. A great example, right? And this is a tiny thing about how powerful the environment is this. Put in the chat an alarm clock if you struggle to wake up in the morning and you sometimes find that you are a person that will often hit the snooze. Okay, let's see how many people in the chat here often hit the snooze. All right, let's do an alarm. Just be honest here. If you're kind of a snoozer, I want you to hit that alarm. If you are fine with your time and if you're great with your time, let's put something else. Let's put a fire emoji. If you wake up and you're on fire and you don't need to stop, let's just put a fire emoji. If you're someone that often hits that snooze, I want you to hit the alarm here. Wow, we've got a lot of people on fire. I've got some people with a birthday cake. All right, cool. So there's a couple of people with alarm clocks. I've got some fire engines here. They're out. They're ready to rock and roll. Okay. This one change helped me big time. Okay, it's a really simple change, but hopefully it'll show how important it is to tailor your environment. I'll give 2 quick examples. When I was flying in and out of China, and for those of you who don't know, I used to fly between China, LA, and the UK regularly. I get up at 5 a.m. in each time zone. I was on fire. There was one point, I remember, I think it was like July 2018, and I couldn't do it. I don't know what it was. I couldn't get up at 5 a.m. And I was like, woe is me. What's wrong? Am I burning out? Like, I'm overwhelmed. Like, what is it? Like, why can't I get up? I couldn't understand it. And it was the simplest and easiest change ever. And I've done it ever since. The biggest difference was this. The alarm was on the other side of the room. It sounds so simple, But that difference in and of itself helped me get up consistently. Why? Because in the morning, my motivation when I first wake up, I'm just going to click the alarm. If I have to get up and move, suddenly I've made that first step. Okay. This is where you want your environment to tailor what you do. Another example of something that I wanted to do was to take wheatgrass shots. I just put a shot glass in front of my shaker, and then suddenly I'm tailoring my environment. If I want to be able to journal, I put the journal on the pillow because then I can actually understand what I'm doing. The key there, Craig, I'm glad you like it. It's a nice idea. So the key is for the changes that you want to create in your life, in your business. If you want to show up in a different way, you need to have visual cues and visual reminders that support you. If you want to give up chocolate, don't have chocolate in the house. I know myself, if someone is going to put like a bunch of chockies in the house, like something is going to happen to them, okay? That we're going to have a conversation, I'm going to have some fun, right? However, I don't have it there. So I'm very aware of kind of what will trigger me, what won't, and tailoring your environment. There's a misconception that a lot of people have. Some people believe that they don't have self-discipline, when actually self-discipline arises where for the people that have to use it least, because their environment supports them in a way that really works. So what we want to be able to do is to tailor your environment in a way that can empower you to create the changes that you want, even if they're tiny changes moving you forward. A great book on this that kind of explains it a little bit more is Atomic Habits by James Clear. I recommend just checking that out as well. Once again, if you're looking to form those daily habits that compound through time. So we are on fire today, right? We've covered a lot of different things so far. I want to move on to this last point, then we're going to wrap up, and then I will take some questions, we'll have some fun, we'll have some reflections on Clubhouse. So if you're live on other platforms, I will be saying goodbye to you, and I will look into Clubhouse moving forward. So let's go on to this last one. And this challenge is the following, that we believe the power is out of our hands. What does that mean? If we believe the power is out of our hands, this is where we start blaming. Okay. Now I want you to put, let's do a double high five. If you're someone that takes full responsibility for your life, let's do double high fives here. If we think this is for you, double high fives if you're going to take responsibility for everything in your life. And let's see if this actually resonates with you. Okay. So here we go. When I was out in China, I had a huge challenge of setting up my first business. And I can't tell you how many different things, I'm going to use, I'm not going to use colorful language here. There were some certain things that I had to do that I found quite overwhelming and frustrating, because there was lots of things that I wasn't perhaps expecting as I started to build up the business. I thought it was simple. Hey, look, there's the business. There's like so many different things. It's insane. So as I'm starting to go through this, I'm like, why is this happening to me? Like why? This is so ridiculous. This is like how? And I'm starting to blame. I'm getting myself stressed out and I'm overwhelmed, right? If that has ever happened to you and you felt stressed out and overwhelmed, I want you to put an overwhelmed emoji in the chat. If sometimes you're like, how did I get into a position like this? Okay, put that in the chat right now, a little overwhelm emoji if that ever happened to you, all right? So when we're looking into overcoming this element here, and we want to be able to take responsibility for our lives, this can be very challenging for a lot of people, okay? One thing that is challenging is, for example, taking responsibility for the situation that I was in. I said, well, why is this so difficult? And then I realized the challenge that I had. And the challenge is I wasn't taking responsibility for where I was. It was my choice to go to China. It was my choice to set up a business. And it was my choice to be where I am. For a lot of people in their lives, they're blaming other people and becoming a victim of their circumstances. What we want to do is overcome being a victim, and instead of being a victim of the circumstances you're in, to take ownership and take responsibility. It's not taking responsibility for all this shit that's happened to you, saying, oh, it's my fault that I've caused that. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, if something has happened, if you've put yourself in that situation, you're going to take responsibility for where you're at, because only by taking 100% responsibility does it allow you to then move forward in a better way. I'll give a brief example. Who's responsible for the weather, right? I know this is pretty, I'm going crazy, right? Right now, if it rains and we're like, oh my God, how could this happen? And we complain about it, we're complaining about something that we could change. Now, I'm not saying you can influence the weather, but if you genuinely didn't like the weather that much, and if it was honestly the most awful thing ever, you could go to a place where it was just sunny. Like, you have that option, right? So what we want to be able to do is, as opposed to blaming and getting ourselves stressed out and feeling unsure, we want to take responsibility for everything going on so that we can move forward in a sustainable way that can make this happen for you. So we've covered a ton today. I genuinely thought this was going to be like a 20-minute thing, and I'm here like 50 minutes later having a party, having a rock star time. So let me wrap this up and kind of explain everything that we've gone through. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some questions. We can raise some hands. We can have a conversation. Once again, if you want to carry on with the conversation, do join us live on Clubhouse. So let's wrap this up. Just before I do want to say one thing. If you are still feeling stuck, just message me stuck, explain what's going on, and I'll see if there's anyone that I can put you in touch with or kind of share some resources to help you take the next step. My aim here is not to solve every problem that you have. My aim here is for you to understand why people remain stuck, why we feel stuck as entrepreneurs, and understand your next step. Because if we get ourselves into overthinking and trying to figure everything out, that's not going to help us moving forward. So what I do want you to do as I go through this is to share the most important thing for you. If you are feeling stuck, don't just put it in the chat. Could you just send it to me? That would be great. Just can you send me a DM on Instagram, please? On Instagram, because my Clubhouse sometimes feels a little bit haywire and goes all over the place. So let's go through this one by one. And what I want you to do is I want you to share perhaps your biggest insight from this conversation in the chat, because I often find that we can learn from others more than we can ourselves. So please put your biggest insight in the chat right now so that we can all learn from each other, okay? So step one, the biggest challenge people face, right? When we look into why people remain stuck and don't change. Number one, there's not enough pain to change, okay? What is the solution? Have a bigger why. Find out the reasons why you want to create change and make it happen. Number two is people give up after a few failures. They end up procrastinating. They dabble, actively procrastinate. If that's you, the solution is to stay persistent and acknowledge the progress you're making. Victoria, you're very welcome. If that's you and you are procrastinating as well, send me a message saying procrastinate. I've got a master guide on procrastination that will blow you away. It's badass. It took me ages. And I'm telling you now, it's got some cool content. So message me procrastination if that's you. Step three, you're lacking a compelling future. If you're someone that's lacking a compelling future, the solution is to understand what does that compelling future look like. We're going to look into power years. We're looking into your calendar years. We're looking into what is that ultimate vision for you, and ultimately then making the step in order to move you forward in a way that really works. Step number four, okay, you're stuck living in the past or the future. We've mentioned how the future is where people often experience anxiety. In the past is where often we're focusing depression. So what we want to do is to switch that focus for you in order to live in the present so that you're not holding yourself back, either as an anchor holding you back or constantly living in the future, moving you forward so you can't enjoy the present. Next, getting stuck in old patterns. If you're someone that's stuck in old patterns, what we want to do is to find the root cause. Remember that apple and pear analogy? The key there is to be able to move forward in a way that works for you more effectively, in a way where you can focus on the change needed to empower you to move forward. So find out what that root is. That's key. All right, then we've got number six, which people believe they are their mind. We're getting ourselves into overthinking here. We want to distinguish between the human mind and the higher self, okay? Number seven, their environment is preventing change. As I mentioned, Atomic Habits by James Clear, brilliant book on that. What we want to do is to tailor our environment to be able to support us as opposed to hold us back. Definitely a key thing to look into. Last one, number eight, is they believe the power is out of their hands. What we want to do is to take 100% responsibility for everything in your life. Okay, Vipul, you missed number one. And number one is that you don't have enough pain to change. The solution is to have a bigger why and find out the reasons why you want to create a change and make it happen. Okay, guys, I'm ending the lives everywhere apart from Clubhouse, and I'll be with you guys very shortly.